Hello. I have let the wood stove get away from me a little bit. It's really cold in here. So this might need attention. Nah, it's fine. This has water in it. I went grocery shopping. Was trying to get eggs in the belief that they might be running low, but they were already running too low, so I was only able to get 6. Usually I get like 18. So we're going to use this as a little start the fire again technique. Oop. It's fine. Let's see. I am the god of wood stove fire, and I bring you warmth. Just hot enough to not be able to hold on to it anymore. Okay. And I've got soot all over me now. That's what you do when it's really cold and you got to get it going again. So let's get this going again. And while I'm down here and can't see chat, people can be filtering in. I see them filtering in because I haven't minimized my window yet. And today is a to be disclosed. And what that means is I haven't really decided. I didn't have all of the day to focus on what I was going to do. So I have a couple, 3 options. Technically 3. More likely, more like 2. First idea, plug-in coding. I've got at least one thing that I can probably get done even in as little time as I have today, which is kind of ironic because I don't have dinner ready to make today, but I'll vamp for something. I'll like make tomato soup or something. I have cans of tomato soup. They are rather expired, unfortunately, but I like making cream of tomato soup with a little bit of sour cream. So I did get that. You can't even let that be expired because it'll be really obvious. So one possibility is doing a plugin or something. Another possibility is 6 signs patch making, leaving me tomorrow and the next day to come up with a plugin for the weekend, because I do not wish to just totally skip a week just because the world's gone to hell. I do not wish to skip what I do for only that reason. So I'm going to try to hold it together and keep doing stuff. One of them being keep a plugin coming. That said, I could give people, well, the problem with giving people patches is that I can't post them in the usual places that I post plugins, and that's where I typically put something up. Hard to tell how much that even matters anymore. But this is starting to work. When it gets warm enough, that fan will start spinning. It is a temperature junction fan. So yeah, I wonder if you could use the temperature junction fan to run like mini synthesizers or something. That'd be cool. But until then, we've got like 9 people showing up. Sort of medium, kind of have something to eat. I'll think of something. Hey, Grants, good to see you. So that's 2 possibilities. Not counting I should futz with these screens so that they make better sense. Again, if I have any suggestions and I need to pop out chat, that's normally what I do, right? Yeah. Boop. Here you are, chat. So, the tub is still frozen shut. All of my work this morning did not unclog it. Time will tell whether it will ever be unclogged before this coming weekend. No, living in a place and being able to bathe is not hell, it is heaven. I have been homeless, remember, so I have strong opinions about that. No, even with the frozen shut tub, that's still pretty freaking good. And I'm quite grateful. But yeah, what we are thinking about now as the warmth begins to start going, you'll notice that that fan is still not going. It's only just starting. But we have 3 options. Oh, Noah Leno says compile the simple gain plugin and VST SDK. And, one possibility is that I simply answer questions and talk. Grins, hell did not freeze over so much as boil over. Dude, the stuff... I follow enough people on Blue Sky to be up to speed with some things that honestly some of my country's compatriots probably don't know about. I was talking to a guy who's in my recovery program who I talk with on a regular basis. He's one of those would-be non-political types. So I had to ask him, like, dude, do you want to be warned of stuff that's going down? And he was like, no, I do not. And I'm like, okay, I love you, man, and good luck. Because I am not going to get up in your grill if you don't want it. But, like, the shit that he is missing out on, like, the people who control our government have fired all of the aviation administration's sort of... There's a committee in the FAA that does due diligence checking out for safety issues for airlines and airports. Somebody told Trump to fire all of them, and he did. There is no telling whether there are going to be any more of those. Don't fly. If you are an American, especially as months grind on, don't fly, man. Not going to be safe. Another issue is if you're interested in like COVID or bird flu, we're going to have to find some other, like, remember how there's open source intelligence? We're going to, yep, that's the one. Aviation Security Committee. If you're interested in outbreaks of like more COVID-19 or the upcoming bird flu, go and find your own ways of doing it, because Trump has forbidden anybody in health and human services from making any announcements or informing anybody about any of it. So yeah, don't get COVID warnings. I don't know what I was joking around earlier, like, I don't know whether he's going to actually bomb the vaccine makers or make them illegal or God knows what, but yeah, all hell's breaking loose up here. And it's gonna get weird. And one of the things I'm here to do is, much like what I was doing when I was hanging out with this friend of mine who I have known for like literal decades and is another recovery person. So we have something in common in that we care about being able to help people who want to get clean and sober to do so. That's something that I do personally, in that I don't drink or use. And in fact, I'm so good about it that I didn't even make myself another cup of coffee when I got back in. And yeah, and exit from WHO. Yeah, it is. Well, that's an interesting question. I'm not even sure whether Hegseth made it into the top of the military, or whether further problems are. You can't really know what's going on just yet. A lot of what's coming out is intentional noise, or propaganda, or just meant to scare you. So you can't always go by that. That's one thing that my apolitical friend had right, which is you can't just jerk around on the end. Like I was saying, do not approach the dancing chainsaw clowns. Do not approach the dancing chainsaw clowns. They're doing it on purpose to lure you in. So I'm going to need to be more than a day or so. Well, Alex, it's going to need to be more than a day or so to figure out what's actually going on. Because, like, the Russia contingent of the winning government is essentially at war with the Elon contingent. It is, those guys are not on the same side. In fact, the Russia people should be very worried about Elon, because he is not necessarily loyal to them and he has power over them. And that never flies. Bernie apparently is being good. I think he's been rather foolish before, but I mean, he's my senator and I worked for him. And I saw some of the Russia people that piled into his campaign and decided that they were going to start pushing things along. Only hindsight really taught me that lesson. And I don't think that I think he is kind of monomaniacal, and he is so up in arms about the billionaires and his support for the working class that he doesn't have I mean, who did, though? Well, Hillary knew what was going on, but who else? And I only voted for her back in the day because he asked me to. So, boy. Anyways, this is not really what I'm here for. So I have a question for chat. And that would be, do you want me to work on a plugin? Do you want to work on some sounds for 6 signs, which is just recently, as in maybe, I don't know, this morning, got another upgrade? And oh yeah. Grens, one of the things to bear in mind, and anybody in America should bear this in mind, we are a very large, very spread out country. My take for getting through all this is I've got stuff to do. It happens to be giving people the means of production, quite literally. So you could say, oh my God, I got my little red book and everything. But I'm talking about music production. Ooh, Alex is very excited about plugin. Well, if nobody comes and argues with him, that's going to be it. Or if somebody else says plugin, that's totally going to be it. All I got to do is drag over some cables and things. This cable needs to plug in. Easily done. He says easily done, then I don't manage to do it. Come on. There we go. Got there. Hell yeah. Okay, plug in it is. Bear with me. We're going to get going. Sorry for the loud noises. We're going to get going because there's a bunch of stuff to fool with. Oh no, I've always got about 3 or 4 ideas coming along. I know exactly what I have in mind. Here, wood stove cam while I plug things in. And now I'm going to fuss with OBS a little bit. Or not. It worked first time. Good for it. Jonathan, you're asking for a fuzz pedal, so you should try like some of my distortion type things that I have already made, which are like that. There's a whole bunch of stuff like that. So Grins, as far as console 8 start, what you're talking about is getting into some of the experiments that I could do. Don't know what you mean by Avalon, unless you mean the Roxy Music album. So what you see on the screen, it does say to cassette. That doesn't actually have any further progress. It's just kind of sitting there, not being anything yet. It's a copy of to tape 8 so far. That's not first on the list because I can't get it done by this weekend. So let's see what I can. Oh, and Disintegrate. Well, shucks, I could put that out. We could play with it a little bit. Let's see whether this is actually ready to go, because it is the previous experiment along a certain line. And Take Care is meant to be a delay type plugin that can make sounds like the Caretaker, in that multi-tap delay with a bunch of frequency bending, like vibratos on multi-tap delays in interesting ways. So that you could, on the one hand, have a pad, and on the other hand, you could set it to do this vibratos on a bunch of things, so that it would become just a wall of roaring noise. Also like the Caretaker, or later stages of the Caretaker. One thing I can do is fire this up, and that will open Xcode for me. Looks like I'm starting with Melt for this one. And yeah, I think we have a little too much here. Funny thing, it does build, but I was thinking along other directions. So, new project. I have been asked for a convolving plugin, as in something that can do convolution of two sounds together. And it seemed to me as if that might be a cool thing. Might well be worth trying. The way I can do it, just based on my existing toolkit, I can do a left-right convolve. And that'll be a little bit like my bass plugin, as in CRIC bass, in that it takes a stereo thing in and outputs mono. So what that would be a convolver where you can pick one or other of left or right and then convolve it by the other one. Now, in theory, that's like what you do if you're doing the convolution reverb, but it's also not. Because what's going to happen is it's going to be kind of gatey and kind of distorty. What, Alex? Alex says yes, yes, and then no. So I can do this left-right convolve, but I don't have the ability to take any given thing and put it on top of any other thing. Because I can't make it be stereo if it is convolving I don't have the facility with the plugins I'm working with to take in sidechain inputs. Honestly, there's probably lots of people who know how to do that. I have never been one of them, and nobody's ever showed up and showed me. So that's just how it is. Why not stereo? Because I can't. What I can do is an experiment of, if you wanted to take one thing and convolve it by another thing, use whatever routing you need to do in order to put it into left and right of a track, throw the plugin on, and then you get to convolve the one thing by the other thing. There's also a concern where, because it's convolving both of those sounds on the fly, or convolving the one by the other on the fly, what's going to happen is you wouldn't be able to, for instance, do a reverb effect. It won't be anything like that, because a reverb effect is like taking a sound and then convolving an entire other sound onto every sample of it. Whereas what we're talking about is more like, say, if you would, for instance, we can do some experiments. This might be a fine way of spending the next couple of hours, is setting this up and doing experiments on it. Also trying to figure out where I am on the camera. So we'll call it LR convolve, because that's literally all it is. I have to name it something, so we're going to name it something. LRCV is the code. It starts up with many possible controls. Hey, tweeting in. Well, I will first make it and then I'll try to show you. So what we've got from the word go is it will build something that doesn't do anything yet. But in order to be able to do it, video maker doing for the next, for your next gigs. Cool, cool, cool. We have lots of warnings, but they don't matter. We shouldn't need to have any stored information because this is very direct. And A, B, and then all these other things. So we can leave some of this or just comment it out or whatever. Dry wet control will not make any sense because we're doing an artificially constructed idea. My furnace is just turned on, even though I do also have... Here, watch this. Hey, it's off and running. Warmth is coming, even if it's rather late in the day. I honestly am pleased with being able to throw a camera on the wood stove because it feels like a nice, cozy thing to be able to offer people. The thingy is now twirling away nicely. I will have to interrupt my coding in order to put more logs on the fire, but not just yet, not right now. So here we are. We should not need to use this. I shouldn't need to use the gain plugin. The dry wet won't actually make any sense. For the same reason Don't believe we need dry sample. So this mid side is interesting me. I don't think that makes any sense with convolution. This, Eden, this is starting with the audio unit, yes. It's starting with a old school audio unit that runs on antique machines being built on a old laptop running Snow Leopard, Mac OS X version 10.6.8. I also build for antique Windows and Linux machines and Raspberry Pi. But this is where it all starts. See, I've got a whole 8 gigabytes of RAM. Ooh. And I have 2.53 gigahertz Intel Core i5, which probably has like one processor. How many processors does it have? Let's find out. Yep. One processor, 2 cores. Ooh. Isn't this a powerful machine? Isn't this a spectacular monster of processing technology? Tell you what, I can get this back easy as I want, so let's just delete that too. Now we've got a thing where none of these variables mean anything. And this currently doesn't do anything. This is all the audio code at the moment. So it's time to start putting some audio code in there. So convolving is taking a sound and multiplying it by another sound. So if there is a noise happening on the right channel and then we're convolving it by the left channel, what will happen is we only hear that noise as it is multiplied by the left channel. If the left channel has 0 in it, then it becomes silent. Convolution impulses and mono and a separate convolution impulse on sides? There's nothing that unusual about that. You could do it with a reverb as well. Let's start by not even having any controls at all, so we can just hear what it does. And you'll be hearing it, I can pipe it through the speakers. Let's take a moment and we can pipe it through the speakers so it can sound a little bigger. Otherwise, you would only hear it off of the laptop speakers, and they are broken because it's a very old laptop. Plug this, unhook that, and away we go. Man, it's been a while since I have done this antique laptop coding thing. El Bonito, we'll see about that. So that just gave a convolution. Since multiplication is commutative, it would be the same either way around. Either one can be the carrier, either one can be the source. If we start being able to dial them back, that'll mean something else. But let's just take a moment. Let's save. We'll build it. We don't have any controls happening yet. And we're going to see what this did while we're at it. So this is not going to be a nice sound, but it's going to be a sound. Do I have CRIC base A? And does it constitute? This could be interesting, because there's no point in using a normal sound for this, nor would you be able to hear any stereo qualities if it did have stereo. But, oh, are you going to crash? I didn't let it finish loading. No, it's okay. So that's a neck pickup. And that's a bridge pickup. So there's two different pickups going on. It's not terribly loud. So we called it LR convolve, unless we called it RL convolve. We called it LR convolve, which is good because it's right next to LR flip timer. Cool. None of these mean anything, but we should have a sound. We have a painfully quiet sound is what we have. And we have very little happening musically in this, so I need to pick a louder section where it's doing more. I bet you can't hear that at all. I can barely hear it. Yeah, useless, 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 useless. So in order to make any sense of this, we had better take a couple of unrelated things. Here's a possibility. Oh wait, no, that's not going to be any good. I've called this heavy dist, but I don't think it's going to be any good. Oh, I did it again. It's a drum sound. Well, okay, well, let's get weird then, shall we? New document with selection. Add channel. Here's a vocal. Reason for oppression. Let's see how big this is. Copy. And paste just on the side. And again, just for good measure. Well, wait, no. Now I paste again. So if we do the same thing, something else is going to happen. I'd better run this in an effect stack so I can turn it up. Otherwise, there's a real risk if you can't even hear it at all. Please behave. My menus are not behaving nicely to me. Whatever. We'll do this anyway. Here's LR convolve. None of those do anything. I'll get rid of them in a moment. And what else can we do to... Oh, I know exactly what we need to do. Our ever popular bit, shift gain. This will make it louder if we need it louder. And here's what this kind of convolve does with completely unrelated sounds. Okay, that's not that great, and I'll tell you why. It's not that great because I don't get any melodic things, because it's really short and abbreviated. Oh, I know something that I can maybe do. Let's see whether this one will do this. Auto mark cuts. I have a version of this program where you can set it to delete all of the between noise sections. This ain't necessarily it. Although it does make me wonder what could be done with or we could produce it and then take a square root since it's multiplying L by R. So maybe we simply need to square root it in order to make that work. I don't think I have my delete thing in here. It's a pity. I know that this program has it in a newer version. I do not have that newer version here. This is the antique. Ooh, or, hello. Okay. This is what we're talking about. Delete silences. Did that do what I wanted it to? Hello? Oh, I've just set it to play, and we have still got LR convolve engaged. If it's only playing one channel, never, but all once upon, and the one channel has sound in it, and the other channel, since it's not selected, is not playing, it's guaranteed to be silence. I'm also not entirely happy with any of this, so we're going to throw it away and start over. Let's pick different sounds. That was dumb. That didn't work at all. What wouldn't suck is, let's take these two sounds. I'd really like to, in some way, demonstrate what this kind of sound could even be. And we have not got there yet. But I tell you what, we've still got all of this up and loaded for our initial experiment. We're going to not save. And these are essentially mono. And we're going to straight up replace stuff with stuff. That's fine. And then we're not going to save this because that would break the original sound. And what have we here? We have two noises that are a little more busy. So that's freaking weird. But then if we convolve them, so that's kind of what I expected to hear a little of. So there's a thing. In fact, let's save this as its own thing. Save us a little time, because it did a noise. It did a noise, and it sounded like what I was expecting. At this point, we now need to make LR convolve do something more useful and work with that more effectively. And I've got a number of ideas as to what might possibly get us there. So, oh boy. Okay, nope. This is what we needed. We don't need to waste space. And somebody asking about slow leopard. Not slow leopard, but snow leopard. So let's quit out of here and go back to the code. So right now, this is the code. Oh, and this. So do you see one thing that's going on? One thing that's going on is that we're multiplying these by each other. So if we were to do a square root, we'd be able to get back something of the original density. What we've done here is it's multiplying each of these by each other, so they cannot make a sound unless both of those sounds are loud. And that's going to significantly reduce the... Also, I don't think I can square root a negative number. So there's the thing. So let's assume... Oop, space. It's not really a frequency modulation modulator, but we're talking about making this work in a certain way. So there's a number of different ways this can go. No, I'm not really using a limiter behind it. I'm just running the output into a digital to analog converter, and my converter is not turned up so loud that it would be blowing my speakers or anything. Remember, this is not some modern system which is completely dependent upon the converter. It's got a real amplifier stage on it, and I can turn it down if I need to and so on. So no, there is no limiter there. If it distorts, and it did when I started it out, it just distorts. So the question is, firstly, we need a if statement based on is this positive or negative? Secondly, we want to figure out what multiplying it by another thing that could be positive or negative even means. And thirdly, we need to figure out what polarity it'll output, because we are going to want to run a square root on it. So maybe what we do is just straight up here's the first thing we can try. This may or may not work. We'll find out. Or it might be fun. Even if it doesn't work, maybe it'll be so good that we use it. Here's what we do. Forgot my parenthesis. It's been a while. All of my Console X work was on the other computer in the realm of GUI design and stuff, and so this is sort of back to basics. There's nothing wrong with that either. That's fine. Oh, I see why it did that. Forgot my semicolons. You know, one of the things I was talking with my apolitical friend over coffee is I was showing him video game ideas. Console H will, yes, have a GUI and pretty much the same number of controls because it's meant to work with the same control surface. So now if it's positive, we're running a square root based on the absolute value of input sample R. If it is negative, we've flipped those over so that we can still do a square root and get predictable results out of it. And it's always the absolute value just so that I can get a predictable result. And it's time to see what we just got. Time to go and find out. We still have System Profiler open for no good reason. So now, here is, oh, have we not got that saved as an open? That's dumb. Well, I bet we can open it up. Or, no, I bet we can open it up because I bet it's in here. So what do we even call that then? Convolve test is what we called it. If we can open this and it doesn't crash, I bet it's going to remember where it is. It just didn't remember in recent things. So, if I'm not mistaken, maybe it'll be a little more audible now. That's interesting. I only hear the one and not the other, and we know we have two of those. So let's swap the channels and see what it does. Boop. Now what do we got? Only rightful governor of your affairs. This amounts to downright spiteful. Who's the fool who stands? Interesting. I would have expected that to still have the strong convolve quality, but suddenly it doesn't. Hey, Afghan, You needn't call me that. That's kind of silly. If I was master, this would have done what I wanted. Oh, well, we will get to try that, El Boniato, but only once I get it to do a striking and intense thing. And that has not happened just yet. So here's what we just made. If input sample L is larger than 0, then we make it into the square root of itself times Bab's input sample R. Well, before we had just out equals input sample L times input sample R, and it was much quieter, and it did not predominantly so is what's happened purely a factor of one of these being full wave rectified? Because you understand, well, Yannick, whatever, we're doing it the hard way. We're trying to make these two sounds become something really interesting when convolved with each other, even though this maybe isn't how one convolves. So, yeah. Here's the thing, you can't convolve by a negative value in this way that I am doing. And I'll tell you why. Square root is, in fact, the correct thing to do here. Like if they are this, I should be able to test this, shouldn't I? Give me a second, I'm going to fire it up again. We're in the experimenting mode, and we're going to see what happens. Open recent. Let's just take one of these. Doesn't matter if it's a useful sound. Don't you recognize? I have a new way in Reaper of fixing this kind of stuff up, by the way. Looking forward to. There's mixes that I was going to do the last 2 days and did not get around to doing it because times are discombobulating. And I'm sure that's fine. So now if we have the same thing in both channels, what do we got? Don't you recognize? So if we convolve this by itself and then square root, we get the original thing back. That's important. That is important. And I'll show you why. Check this out. Because this is going to get interesting. There, now they don't match. Check this out. Don't you recognize the passing of seasons? Seasons! Didn't expect that, did you? And we can go farther, but not in this version. Okay, so let's put that back. Then delete that and have it doing basically the same notes, but now it's completely different sounds. In other words, oh, it just went bonk. In other words, we do this. For a precious time, we love beyond precious times, we love beyond seasons. Seasons. So those are similar, but they're not the same take. So if we convolve that, if they were the same, the original one would come back out. But if they're not the same, it gets a little weird, although not in a way, it's real-time convolution, there is no window here. But not in such a way that it's honestly all that good. In particular, we are very strongly hearing one and not the other, and I'm pretty sure I can tell you why. Oh, don't save that. Good heavens, no. It's because we are taking both polarities of the one channel. The one where we're taking both polarities of it is the one that we can hear clearly. But we're not taking both polarities of the other channel, and the channel that is being full wave rectified. In other words, the one inside the Fab's input sample R is the one that is going away, that we can't hear. It's only being used as amplitude modulation. It's only able to go positive between 0 and 1, basically. And then the square root puts the amplification back again. But since it can't go to the negative, then we don't have the ability of getting that really kind of crunchy, obviously both of them are going super weird. And that's the next thing to do. Other than the next thing to do is throw another log on my fire. I don't think I'm going to need to, pause. We're just going to go straight until 5, and then I'll, figure out something to eat, even though I don't have anything to eat. No matter. Like I've been saying for the last couple of days, there's people in Siberia with all manner of problems, like not having anything to eat, or their stuff freezing up. And we'd better learn to be sympathetic of it, because we're going to be in the same boat. But I'll tell you one thing. I can be in that boat and still code open source software, thank you very much. Just like people up there in Siberia can make dub techno music. And we'll go about doing those things, and we'll share. Much like I listen to their dub techno music to relax. So, here we go. I promise I'm not going to eat logs, as much as they would give you fiber. Okay, here we go. Let's make multiple statements. I do need to have out, but we don't need to use out as the comparison, because we're basically starting from here. But we don't even need to use out for any of this stuff. We can just define it and get ready to use it. And I'll tell you why that's on my mind. This is now the same as it was before. Ooh, Laughing Gnome is popping in, and hey, cool. I'm glad that it's working out for your electric bass. There are many other things I'm going to try with it. So you might notice what I've got here is a little thing where we can either do the square root or the negative. Under what circumstances would we want to do the positive or the negative? And I'll show you how to fix this. Oh,
Yannick, I'm assuming must be pronounced Yannick because there are other things I don't recognize, and I'm imagining it's sort of Scandinavian or who knows what. But if my plugins are used in the dub techno community, that makes me a happy guy. That is very cool. Love it. So watch this. If we make it out of that, then we can manage every possible permutation. German? Cool. Funny thing, I took German in college, although it didn't really... No, high school. I took German in high school, although it didn't really stick. I tell you, regarding German things, the one thing where I would absolutely take advantage of having clout and use my reputation to get into a cool place is going to Berghain. I would love to get in there and listen to the techno music there. That is some noisy, fierce stuff. And you can't just get in there just by wanting or thinking you can be a tourist and go. But you know how back in the day, rock bands, you'd be like, oh my god, I went to see The Who and I wanted to have a backstage pass and be the cool guy. Oh man, if I was the cool guy in Berghain, I would massive life victory kind of thing. Anyways, 1, 2, 3, 4. You see what I'm doing here? I want to figure out which of these things, and I think I can effectively, if any of these things are 0, come to think of it, I'd better initialize this as 0. Because if it passes through all these, out is whatever it started out as. And if any of these things are actually 0, then the result is also 0. Oh, Fairman. Yeah, I can see that. You know, and tell me if Yannick is actually the way to pronounce it, because I am assuming that is, being like an American with some clue of how to pronounce things like in German. But that, for all you know, it is Yannick. I don't know. But yeah, that puts you in good company, because Nile Rodgers from Chic was once not let into Studio 54 when his music was playing inside it. Oh, that's a frustrating answer. See, I can't... So as in Y or as in J? Because I would assume, like with a Dutch person, they would be pronouncing things with a Y. Which doesn't mean that you're a Dutch person. I'm just saying... I'm trying to remember the example of that from U2 and like Brian Eno and so on. And they had a photographer. And the photographer would go out to the Joshua Tree and National Forest. But since he was Dutch, he would call it the Joshua Tree. So if it's that way, then it is definitely Yannick. So see what I've got here? All of this is being done with the absolute values. So if this is larger than 0 and this is larger than 0, multiplying them is also going to be larger than 0, so straightforward. If there's a negative and a positive, then it's going to be the negative. If there's a positive and a negative, it's going to be the negative. And if there's a negative and a negative, much like if you just took input sample L times input sample R, negative number multiplied by a negative number becomes a positive number again. This is just replicated the very first... Oh, you're messing with me. So this is like the very first one. where it is input sample L times input sample R, but now it's also got a square root going on. Yeah, I would imagine. Yep. So now we have a square root factor going, and it will fully incorporate both the positive and negative factors of both of these, but we're using a square root function to bring the level up. Like if both of them were at 0.25, that would force the output to be way less than that. But now I can put it back, and we're going to hear what this sounds like right now. We still have no controls, but maybe this is going to be a controlless one. That would be funny as anything. You just have to manage it that way. We shall see. Open up Twisted Wave. Now, let's first check on this and see if we have the same thing that we started with.
Don't you recognize?
There it is. Is our convolve still giving us that coming out the output?
Don't you recognize?
No. Wow. That's fascinating. This is a mono track, and yet it's making a really striking thing happen. Tell you what, let's apply. Oh, hi. Okay. Didn't see that coming. We full wave rectified this without meaning to. This is supposed to be able to put negatives in. Or do we need to just... Are we applying it repeatedly? Because this shouldn't really be doing this. So hang on. Let's quit out of here without saving. So I think what's happening is this needs to be done in multiple goes, because what, well, no, hang on. We have logic statements here, but we're not actually manipulating input sample L or R, and we're only overriding out, so that shouldn't be doing this. Huh. This should be correct. I'm a little boggled at why it's doing what it's doing. So I know what I just saw it do. So yeah, we just full wave rectified it, and that's what caused the funny sound. But you'll notice out, some of our outputs are in fact negative of what that is, and everything is using the absolute value, so this should really be able to do the thing appropriately. Tell you what, let's see what it does if we do this. Now input sample L is the only thing dictating what the output is to do. And by that what I mean is it's governing whether the output is positive or negative. This should, repeat should, give me a output that covers both sides of the wave. We're going to find out whether that assumption is correct right now. And I'm happy to see you guys chatting amongst each other too. I get too busy doing this stuff, but it's all good. It's getting to hang out in my workshop. What's wrong with that? Nothing. What's wrong with this? I need to open this up like this. And let's go back into here.
You recognize.
That's what it's supposed to sound like.
Don't you recognize?
That time it's normal. Could it be? Okay, so maybe that's actually the right answer. Okay, we're going to try something. Goodbye, Mr. Bond. We're going to put this back. So now it should be doing it in such a way where it can do both sides. If I'm feeding it directly mono, I'm willing to assume that since both channels are exactly the same, they can only be either both are positive, meaning it's coming out as positive, or both are negative, meaning it comes out as positive. Interesting. So one way to mess with that would be if I took the input and then simply flipped in, well, hang on. Firstly, let's build this and reproduce the same problem again. Because, not that this is a problem, it's just doing what it does. But I want to see what can happen. And so I'm going to treat it as if it is a problem and then see what I can do by messing with it. Here we are again. Here's our sound again.
For a precious time, don't you recognize?
By the way, the thing that I discovered in Reaper was useful ways of pitch tuning without using retune. I made a little card for myself. What you do is you split items, you turn off preserve pitch when changing play rate, and then you option drag the edges of the clip. It'll show you the change in semitones, and you can tune stuff on a clip-by-clip basis just by pretending you recorded it at a different sample rate. Since I record at 96K, this is a very clean way of doing it. And it's way smoother than like repitching things which involve drastic resamplings and stuff. It's way better. And easier to do. You can loop it. So this reproduces the problem.
Don't you recognize?
That's all. So here's what we're going to do. Audio, effects, invert polarity. Invert polarity. And then we're going to just go in and apply it. What do we get? Aha. Turns out that's just a factor of using the same thing for both channels. That also means if I mess with this in any way, I'm going to start to get both outputs rather than just the one. Let's see what that sounds like after quickly deleting it. Oh, gotta close this before we can hear anything. Come on, you.
Nor shall I. We love beyond.
So if this repeating line was actually doing this, where they overlap a little bit, Now they're singing different things rather than being literally the same.
Don't you recognize the paths beyond seasons? Seasons.
Okay, I can tighten up the timing a little better. Like this. Now if we convolve this,
Don't you recognize
same note,
paths beyond
but different takes.
seasons?
In fact, different verses. But some of them sound similar to each other. If we then convolve this, it will produce distinct sounds. And go bonk because I just hit it. I don't have it on loop. Come on, loop. Loop. Please, loop. There you go. I am relatively happy with that strangeness. Here's what we just did. We are convolving these two things with each other. I'm zooming in a little bit to see what it's doing. And that's producing some really wild results. That's cool. Let's set it up to loop.
Please don't precious time.
See, not all of it was processed. So it's going to tend to make it quieter.
Precious time.
That's it again. Let's close this without saving. Hope to hell it didn't save. And go and find the other one we just did. Remember this?
Only rightful governor of your affairs. This amounts to downright spite.
Unrelated.
Who's the fool who stands and dares?
Completely unrelated. But now if we hit that with our magic, weird, twisted convolve thingy, because we are using the square root function, it's going to keep the levels relatively up. And we're going to get a really messed up result, which is kind of like this. So that's striking as anything. That's very striking. So much so that I'm going to close it and maybe try something else. What's this? Okay, that's a note.
The only
Let's pick a different vocal part for this. Remember, the whole point of this is to be able to route things into a channel. For instance, I can do that in Reaper quite easily, just pan stuff around. And then, ooh, let's get extra funky. Because this is going to be unrecognizable. This is going to take forever. And it's at the wrong sample rate, but we don't care because I can just change that, can't I? We're loading up the entire Belafonte at Carnegie Hall record. I will be able to patch that into here Actually, I'm just going to upsample it so it keeps the same pitch. I'll be able to patch it into that DI guitar, play it, and you'll clearly be able to hear stuff about it, but for instance, YouTube Content ID will not get it whatsoever. Because it won't be the original track, it'll be something else. But first, I need to quickly audition little tiny bits.
In a hollow now.
Hands it is hammering, Lord. Look beyond what I see.
Want to see whether I can find one of his.
Wherever I've been from,
What's his hit songs?
I need famous Granny Scratch.
Man Piaba. I don't know if you're familiar with Belafonte, but you probably have heard.
But quite seriously, it was click.
So there's a little snippet. We will make a new document with it and close this one. We will convert its sampling rate and resample. Modern versions of Twisted Wave has a really good resampler. And then we daren't listen to this directly, but I'll tell you what we can do. Select all, cut, close that, and paste it in here. Then copy that and paste this in. And if we were to play it, we would kind of hear stuff. Actually, you know what? I can turn this up. This is a raw capture from vinyl that came out very quiet. In fact, I can straight up normalize it. That'll be fine. Classic Belafonte there. Here's what you get when you convolve the one with the other using the new little convolve thing, which I'm not sure whether this is actually novel, but clearly the right way to do it. Let's see what we got. That's a really thorough sound record. That is a really thorough sound record. And be gentle with each other, folks. These are tough times. They're not going to get any easier. Listen to my delightful music and stop bickering. Or not, maybe I'll close that. That was pretty wild. What's Amen Loop Sessions? What's this? Other than a okay, this is a ginormous file. That's what this is. Eek. And this anti-computer is happier if I let it load the entire thing before trying to play. But it's probably a waste of time. It's just this. pretty much nothing but drums. So, oops, not helpful. Let's do something else. Let's convolve this with a sine. Here's a sine. That's a low frequency sine, don't care. How about a high sine? Okay, that's more plausible. And that's just manipulating the visuals. So what I want is to copy that one side and paste it over this, or somewhere around this. Good enough. So these together are like this.
For a precious time, we love beyond reason. Reason.
So that's basically a sine carrier tone. So if we then convolve that vocal with nothing but a sine, what am I doing? I should have been using the bass. Check this out. So never mind that. Bass is probably just fine. So low tone. Because you see, what the low tone is doing is inverting the wave every time it crosses over, and that's going to do messy crazy things with the sound. So we start out with this.
Seasons. For a precious time.
But we convolve them, and I could be gating that to make it quieter, but if I don't gate it, we just get this.
Seasons. For a precious time, we love beyond reason. Reason. Please don't shed a tear, nor shall I for what was mine.
Nice. By which I mean horrible.
Sing it not for never, but for once upon a time.
I mean, my pitch isn't great anyhow, but
Don't
wow.
you recognize the passing of
It's full-on Dalek. All you need to do is Airwindows LR convolve with the sine, and you have full-on Dalek. Boom. Just like that. Okay. I think we got something. You can have it this weekend. I feel certain I can make this happen this weekend. I will probably want to give it as a no controls plugin, because that amuses me. And it'll work literally. It does not care which one is the modulator and which one is the carrier. It'll just go. So while we're at it, on my final hour of stream, maybe we just play with this. What can we make happen? I remember that nasty, gnarly, angry voice. If I can find it, here it is. And sine basses. Let's see what happens if we take this just some basses. We'll copy that. I'm going to need to repeat it a whole bunch of times, so that's fine. Let's see if we can do that in a simple way. No? Yes? Please be nice to me and let me do the thing. Post. Okay, good. All I have to do is on select, and I can just keep pasting it. And then all I have to do is crop everything. And be sure not to save this because it has been completely obliterated now. Or rather,
Only rightful governor of your affairs. This amounts
so
to
one of
downright
those
spiteful.
is the bridge
Is the fool who stands
from one of my
and
songs.
dares to deny
And the other one
only rightful
is
governor of
signed bass.
your affairs. Know him now, there's no one fit.
The bass is not in tune with that voice. Not that it would matter terribly much if it was, I fear. So, bring it on. Oh, let's make it even gnarlier. That didn't do nothing. What? Try again. That's more like it. Same for this one. I want my horrifying monster voice to be louder. This should do it. I feel like, oh, I know what I can do. We're about 6 dB down, right? Let's just distort that a little bit. I think it's being saved as a floating point, so this is actually going to be pushing it beyond clip. That's going to be funny. So now, all hell breaks loose. Or doesn't, because I didn't set it up right. There. Don't need anything selected. I just need 2 channels set up because it is a 2-channel. You cannot do convolve on 1 channel. Now all hell breaks loose.
Only rightful governor of your affairs. This amounts to downright spiteful.
Weird.
Who's the fool who stands and dares to deny the only rightful governor of your affairs? Know him now.
Interesting. Bass notes, I didn't lose all of the pitch information. Bass notes, it just kind of left it alone. Let's clear these markers and get going with something else. Like, replace that with some kind of tone. Here's tones. Replace selection. So in this case, we've got a couple of possibilities going on. Let's pick well, let's try all of the things in turn. How about? How's that sound? I want to hear what this does. So 1K, that's a irritating note, but we are convolving. Apply and close. Please let go of that. Thank you. Now, here's the new convolving. Whoa. Oh my god! What is it doing? What? What? It went full Swedish Chef. What the hell is that? Did we already ruin it?
Rightful governor
No.
of your affairs. This amounts to downright spite.
It went full Swedish Chef. How did it do that? I just did a really loud sign.
Only rightful.
That's nuts. What the actual hell? I need to hear that again. Because I'm not sure I believe what I heard. Okay, so it's going to be plenty loud. What is this saying? It went full Swedish Chef. Oh my god. How? How? That's really messed up. What on earth? Oh my. Well, you know what we got to do? Try other tones. Because that was completely unexpected. I was thinking it was going to be gnarly or nasty, but I wasn't expecting it to not even speak the same damn language. That's really wild. Let's find other really wild things. So that was a sine at 1000 hertz that really messed with literally everything. I can also pull the volume back a tiny bit. What if we do a triangle? This is now a triangle. Are we still full Swedish Chef, or did it change it to another language? Hitherto unknown. We're about to find out. Stop. Oh no. Okay, so before playing with different pitches, because that had a lot to do with the pitch. That's two different pitches, and what's going on there is we have fairly smooth modulation at whatever amplitude is happening, but we're taking vocal expostulations and rapidly going between regular and inverted, and that's what's causing that to happen. It should track with volume accurately. Oh, I also want to do one further thing before getting back into this again. The magic of this is only heightened by there being no controls. You have no control. You just feed different things in and it goes completely and totally mad. So, this is our parameters. It's going to be like ready to go right away. And you are getting this weekend. This is too much fun, and I think people need a little fun around about now. None of these. Okay, no parameters 0. It is another no controls. This doesn't have anything to do with nothing either. And I gotta go quickly in here and do this stuff. Yeah, this is all down to being able to run everything through the square root, which compensates for the fact that it's being applied in the first place. The multiply is something that it's like a square, except for it's two separate things instead of a square, and then the square root puts it back again, but in a way that is horrible. Magically horrible. And we're going to delete these. It's going to be done before the end of the day. I've got 45 minutes to play with this on stream, and it's going to be done immediately. So there we go. There is that. There's this. And now all of this, up to and in fact including overall scale, that does not need overall scale. Oh, drums is going to be like noise. So you don't necessarily want noise-based things. I mean, you can have them. It's not going to hurt anything. But you don't necessarily want them. Oh, look, it's now trying to delete that many things. It didn't have any problem before, but now it does. Presumably because it has these warnings about unused variables. And there we go. So there's something it was doing, having to do... Oh, and we don't need this either, do we? No, we don't. Very stripped down little plugin, this. It's all about doing that square root and then being able to put together the polarity that it would have had if you just multiplied the two things together. And that is where the magic happens. We don't even really need the dither here, but that doesn't worry me terribly much. It'll be fine. Multiplying something at dither level makes it as near as silent anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Oh, hi. What's this about? Huh. How about we undo past the point where we did the things? So we can put back that because we needed that. That's apparently part of the template code. It's been a while. Now I will do these other things. And that's all this is. Innocent looking, isn't it? Innocent looking. Yeah. For what it's worth, YRA, back in the day when I hadn't given up drinking and drugs, I would have been the vomit coder, except for I didn't do any work. So you might want to think about that one. If that's you, you might consider getting clean. Build. And copy it over. Now it's not going to have all those dumb sliders. Back into the breach. Nasty voice. And we'll shorten it up a little bit.
Governor of your affairs.
Remember, if we convolve this just as it is, all that happens is we make it be unipolar. It stops going up and down. Instead, it just becomes rectified. But when we start getting funky, terrifying things happen. So let's start doing some of the terrifying things before I go off and forage for dinner. It's all about the tones. So here is how we started out. Let's see what happens if we straight up just do a rectangle. That means we're flipping the phase of this according to a tone. But rather than having it swoop in and out in the way where it turned into the most deranged, and this is at an exact frequency, which we haven't fooled with the frequency yet. When we used a sine wave, it suddenly began to sing in Swedish. And it was the most glorious, horrible thing I've ever heard. This is now a rectangle wave. And we're going to fire this up and see, let go, and see what it makes. Again, rectangle wave. Okay, there's a loud beep in with all of the background noise, and that's 100% Swedish mode. So that's wild. What else can we do? What if the only tone we haven't used other than white noise or pink noise was the sawtooth wave? Let's find out what the sawtooth wave does. Because this is going to be its own, and we should find out what pink noise does, honestly. We'll find out. But before then, here's our sawtooth wave at exactly 1K, or thereabouts. Good and loud. And here's our convolved nasty section vocal. Mostly Swedish, but I feel slightly more English peeking in there, and I'm not quite sure why. Well, let's find out. Let's absolutely find out. I don't know the answer to that, so we're going to find out right now. Want to try, well, let's try pink noise. White noise, I would think, would be closest to the original signal, except for not. Florian, we're doing terrible, horrifying things, and you're going to get to play with this coming weekend. I'm releasing this. This is called LR Convolve. And wait, I've got that selected, so it's time to generate tones. And you don't have to use just tones either, but this currently is tones. We will try all of the things. So I was asked for pink noise. Here's pink noise. Here's the pink noise. That's actually quite loud, so I think what I'm going to do is normalize it. Here's the pink noise. Yannick? Well, let me take a moment, and it's going to be challenging to pronounce a symbol that's not in the English alphabet, Folg. But I will shout you out on the video. People will see the video, people won't. There are no deaf notes. Oh, actually, I lie. It's not that there are no deaf notes. And this was you suggesting Asfag? How's that? Blame Yannick Asfag for this, and me. Oh, hello, boy XX76. You can add that too. Oh, caps. How's that? I'll put you in comments and you will live forever in the code. Although I did the actual coding of it. You didn't say, oh, why don't you use a square root? But that said, I am most happy with the end result. So here's our noise. Here's our vocal. Here's what we get when we have both of those. Let's see what happens. Maybe it'll be reverby. I honestly don't know what's going to happen. And there's also going to be a tonal shift because white noise should give us the original sound, or perhaps not. Oh yeah. Okay, you can kind of hear the original performance. It's just substantially noised up, so less awesome than the tonal one. So let's quickly hear white noise. It says it goes up to 0 dB. We will find out whether that's even true. Yes, it does. The pink noise was substantially louder in this version of this program. White noise. Okay, so what's happening when you convolve with white noise is you basically lose all of the sound because it is flipping phase too often. Pink noise, not so much. Pink noise, there's a lot of noise in there. So what that makes me wonder is, can I run Airwindows noise on a single channel? Because I have noises that will give you deeper tones. And they can't be any of the VSTs because those are all stereo, definitely. But some of these should do it. Let's find out what we can make happen. I don't know whether Voice of the Starship forces you. We'll find out right away. Hi. Here's Voice of the Starship. Oh, you're not going to miss the Swedish Chef. I will put it back. Florian, you ain't ever heard anything like this. But here is... very low frequency rumble. Because when we had pink noise was giving me a weird effect, but also some noise added. Now let's see whether this replaces both the channels. It shouldn't. It didn't. So that's Voice of the Starship. That's a strongly filtered low frequency rumble of a particular kind. It's way darker than pink noise, so we should get, once we normalize it, that should interact with the vocal more effectively than just having a bunch of noise, because it only cares about continuing frequencies or lower frequencies. Here's what we got.
Only rightful governor of your affairs. This amounts to downright spiteful.
So it's kind of warbling it. Here, also firewood.
The only rightful governor of your affairs. Know him now, there's no one fairer. Shown by all he'll take away. Love's a trick and life's a terror. What then do you have to say?
the last time, I will this time. There we go. That's the damper. That makes it burn more efficiently.
So honestly, that's not all that amazing. So hold on to your butt, Florian. This is what we heard earlier. The rest of you, you know what is coming. Sine. 1034 hertz. Replace selection. You are not going to believe this. Watch. Boop. What do you get when you crossbreed this with this?
Only rightful.
And the temperature is probably still about 10 degrees Fahrenheit. You get this. Oh, it gets worse. Everybody said that the rectangle wave was even more extreme. Maybe that's what we'll do for playing with some of the other frequencies. Generate tones. Same danger frequency, but now it's a rectangle. So all that's happening now is that it is swapping phase, polarity, of the underlying sound by convolving it with a rectangle. So it's switching between positive and inverted at audio rates. The tone sounds like this. Quite loud. And the convolve sounds like this. I think it's a little more gnarly than the sine wave one. But wait, there's more. We got a half an hour of this. Or I could build the VST version, but I've got tomorrow and the next day to do that, so it's fine. I don't need to. You'll get this. You'll get this coming weekend. Something good will happen in the world. Generate tones. Let's go back to the sine so it's less horrifying. If we don't pick, like if we picked 1/10, 103 hertz, it's a bass note. That's no longer going to interfere with the pitches quite as much. What shall we get? Any guesses? Think it's going to be Dalek? Think it's going to be aliens? Let's find out.
Only rightful governor of your affairs. This amounts to downright spiteful. Who's the fool who stands and dares to deny the only rightful governor of your affairs?
It starts to sing chords with a suboctave. That's interesting. Too normal. What if we go higher? That's kind of scary. Kind of scary, the idea of going higher. If we went up to like 3K, We still have a sine. Now it's up here. So now if we take this baritone voice, this baritone singing voice, belting a nasty section, and we convolve it by a sine wave 3K pitch, we can get this. We go higher and we start losing any amount of the underlying pitch. We can hang on to lower notes because they're simply being replaced by the inverted too high though, which is not to say you can't use it, but so high that it's unmanageable. I want to know whether I can throw anything else on this. The simple tones are boring me. Well, we had 1K. If we went to like about 700K, that's around where my notes tend to sit. I don't really sit very high when singing. 700K is this sine. I don't know if that's going to be Swedish or English or what. 1K completely became Swedish. It was horrifying. This, a little lower. So, we get this. Okay, that started to give us kind of Dalek and kind of just ring modulation. It's not Swedish anymore. It went back to English. You could totally run one thing into one channel and run this. Remember, it doesn't matter which channel you pick. Left or right, doesn't matter. They're convolving each other. And in so doing, oh boy. Okay, so I am now speculating whether this is really the correct answer, or whether something more. You know what? Let's just run with it for this week. I think this is a prank that will completely work, where I can show up with a Santa hat on or something, and then just immediately hit people with something convolved with 1K sine, and it turns into Swedish. Or I can run my audio for the video during. Well, no, I can't really do that though, because I can't do the channel operations. Anyhow, down at this pitch, it increased the pitch substantially. It went way up. So, further experimentation is in order. I did 100 and it just sounded like a warbling and occasionally a low frequency. Up to 700K, I'm absolutely doing a pitch increasing. So what if we split the difference a little bit? Halfway to Swedish. Different pitch. There's a pitch.
Only rightful governor of your affair.
That's what we're working with. And we get this. Okay, now it's totally a ring modulator, but it's not close enough to that middle tone that it's gone full Swedish. Not yet. I wish I could do a sweep. I cannot do a sweep with this, but I'll tell you what I can do. Let's close this without saving and go to something else. And people were wanting me to try. The trouble is doing drums with this causes it to just become noise. Anything that high frequency just becomes noise. So what can we do that's not? Oh, let's play a little game. We've got sines. And now we've got sines that don't match each other. Let's see what that does. Now we're just convolving bass sines with other bass sines. What do we got? Okay, cool. They're kind of arbitrary frequencies. You convolve them with each other, and that's kind of weird. Oh, hi. Sweep up. What do we got here? Oh, this is going to come in handy. I did have that after all. Let's not save that. And let's go to something that is more like a nice and pretty vocal. Or as closest to those as I get. And let's smooch together all the voices so that it just kind of continues, because we don't really need any gaps in between these things. We're fine. Remembering, of course, that if we straight up convolve them with other takes of each other, it just becomes variations on awful, which is not to say it's not worth trying. In fact, this would be, well, maybe this is the time to try it.
It's a little bit unfair. Pass the debt of...
So we've got that, but then if we take something like this, that's sweeping through 1K, and it's starting low enough that we can take this, copy it. It's even at 96K handily. Oh, you settled down. What are you doing? Thank you. Delete all of that and replace it with paste, unselect, paste, unselect, paste, unselect, paste. Okay, so this might be a little terrifying. Let's see what we got. Dun dun. Because now we have a sine sweep. It's a little quieter. That's scary. Mom, I'm scared. So, sound design. Yep. Clearly. Now, let's do something even more terrifying. Maybe, or maybe not, but we'll find out. Copy. Paste. Reverse. That's right. We're going to convolve it with itself backwards. This is it backwards. So this formerly nice song has been made to do this. Oh God, that was scary. What the hell was that? Some demon like. Oh, this is a lovely harmony. Violence, violence, violence. But wait, it gets worse. What if some kind of terrible effect that smoothed things out, or delayed them, or something, to make it more of a continuing tone, to put the other one against? We can but try. Ooh, Orbit Kick does interesting things. Rather aggressive things. And we got to use these because we're in mono. So we're looking for something that can run in mono and either reverb or sustain. What might that be? And not necessarily just forward verb. What the heck is forward verb? Galactic, that's clearly stereo. I'm going to be looking for one of my older ones that might just be pocket verbs. Pocket verbs? Hi. Sweet, that worked. So sure enough, lovely, perfect, no notes, exactly right. Stretch. Either at maximum size or a small size. No, not a small size. Maximum size. And don't need to worry about gating. Cool. This is all kinds of awesome. Pocket verbs, stretch, runs in mono, and I can then normalize it. Until it is this. And convolving that with the real vocal forward. Mind you, I could just reverse this. Let's reverse it again. I'm not even going to listen. I'm going to reverse it again. That should, in theory, it'll do something weird. If I reverse it, now I have that, but as a massive pre-reverb. So that convolution, now that we're getting really messy, we did this. Kind of monster voice. This is terrifying. And then it goes real quiet in the very end. So that's all well and good, but maybe I was wrong to reverse it. Let's unreverse it. Here's our convolution. So in theory, this is going to be applying another pitch basis that is now all spread out onto what was originally a melodic note of the same thing again. And you get this. Oh no. That's terrifying. So let's get more sound designing. Oh, wrong thing. Here we are back in the beginning.
Unfair, past the dead of hard to walk and live.
So, stop that. Why are you fooling with the size all the time? See, I'm moving it this way, and that's meant not to change the... For heaven's sake. Put it back. Thank you. I must have been clicking on that section somehow. Never mind, I'll just double click. That should do it. What am I thinking? So what do we get? Since we can run pocket verbs on things... Not getting. A shorter stretch, causing it to act more like a reverb. So we're going to do that there. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing in reverse. Hopefully it will remember its timings. If not, we can fool with it until it does know what it's doing. And back we go. What's this working like now? Okay. I think we need to take one of these and punch it in the beginning. Or just plain go and find this because it wasn't good at what it was doing. And make them synchronize. It's really hard to find where the center is. Undo. Let's see what this looks like. Looks like a fairly similar... Okay, I think I see where this goes. Let's line these up by roughly the size of the wave. And see what we get. How are we doing? Okay, now this one needs to be a little sooner. And that's like an S or something, so this should be about synced up. Okay. Now we have pocket verbs. One is forward and one is backward, and they are on the same track, effectively in mono, except for it's not really synced up perfectly. If it was synced up perfectly, it would be doing its full wave rectification thing. Let's see what hell we have unleashed. Okay, that's horrifying. It's not exactly what I thought. What if we like filtered them or something? Or pocket verb them again.
It's a little bit unfair.
What? Did it just put it back? Apply. What the? I did not see that coming. Okay, you apply pocket verb stretch, and it mangles everything completely. If you apply it backwards, it puts the sound back. I did not see that coming. I did not know this processing was reversible. That's really weird. That's really weird. Well, as long as we have that going on, let's hear what that sounds like now. Yeah, okay. Well, we're at it. Reverse. And voila. Apparently, pocket verb stretch is reversible. And you get it back again. So here is the big question. Seeing as we can do this, now we have it back again. Why? That was literally... Oh, we just chopped that up. Let's go to this one instead. This is nastier for our last couple of minutes of play.
The only rightful governor of York.
So, if that's reversible, what happens if you are not reversing it perfectly? Hang on, I was going to reverse it first. Reverse. and apply pocket verb stretch, size 0.214, although technically I should think any size would work. So we'll try another size. We'll see what literally just straight up 0.5 sounds like. Should be like this. Very good. Apply that. That's a very extended reverb sound. I do not get why you should be able to put that back, but in theory, we can. So let's find out what we got. Firstly, so if this works, we get the original voice back by applying pocket verbs again.
The only rightful governor of Europe.
You do. How? How did this work?
To deny the only rightful governor of Europe.
That's nuts. We have gating. That's just letting peeks of it peek through. So here's the thing. If you can make it literally go back by applying exactly the same pocket verb stretch, which is nothing but a long line of all-pass filters, what happens when you use the wrong all-pass filters? And after I finish this experiment, I'm going to stop stream and improvise something for dinner, even if it is fairly limited. Usually I'm defrosting like taco filling or chicken or something, or cooking rice, and I didn't do any of that today. Too much going on. Boop. Size is not the same as it was before. Now what happens? Okay, that's scary. That's very different. Back to 0.5.
The only rightful.
Back to dry. So if we take it just a tiny nudge off 0.5, huh. This is kind of nuts. Wait, I did not want to do that. I did that by mistake. Let's undo that. Thank you. Now we're slightly offset. But if I do it from scratch, oh, looks like we lost it somehow. What the heck? Let's put that back. There we are. Run it again from relaunching it, and then we'll play with like dry wet or something. Play. not the same now. Got quite a substantial delay going on in that.
The only right.
Back to normal. Reverse it. Apply perhaps a smaller pocket verbs this time. Or maybe we'll try Zarathustra. Zarathustra at size 0. It'll grind a little bit, but it'll get there. And almost time for me to go and forage for dinner. I've run a little bit over, but this is fun enough to do, I suppose. Reverse again. And then same one. Yeah, this one has a slight echoey sound. Okay, so stop that. What we're going to do is decode only on one channel, and then we're going to top it off with the convolver. And then I'm going to finish for the day. Here we are. Alrighty. There's our two sounds. And if we did convolve that, watch how it becomes like literally the original sound again. It's not going to become the original sound again. And because I love you so much, let's finish it with a different. This is a scarier Swedish chef. Maybe a little bit less. Generate tones. Sine. Can quiet down a little bit while we're at it. little bit over 800 hertz instead. Maybe it'll be a little bit deeper now. Or I can use that pitch swoop, but that's terrifying. Perhaps not. Clearly, this part needs to be backwards. And then it was. Sweet dreams.